Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by DraftKings 2021 tight end rankings, tiers, and sleepers all the way down the list. If you want to find the entire rankings list and the rankings list and tiers for every position, hit the description to this video. And there's a ton of stuff down there, so remember to smash the like button for the video, and in the comments section, give me your favorite last round tight end that you feel comfortable with drafting this year. If you miss out on all the very high-end guys, and Jake Ciely and I are going to talk all of this through to figure out what the best strategy is, and even break down what your team may look like if you draft Travis Kelce in the first round, because I just did that in one of Jake's leagues, and I don't love how the rest of the team looks. It's not bad, though. Your hand almost gets forced into going 0 RB pretty quickly if one of the running backs that you like on that next level down from tier 1 doesn't fall all the way to you, depending on where you end up picking. So I played around with the strategy. Don't know if I love it or not. We'll see how the team actually finishes. I'm still in the process of drafting that team at the moment. Remember to tune into yesterday's show to have the full rankings update, the top 150 in there with all of the injury reports and news that we have. Plus, we talked about guys that are falling down draft boards right now. That's also with Jake Ciely. So just hang out on Mayo Media Network. Please subscribe to Mayo Media Network. The reason I'm hitting you up before we get into Jake is I got winners. For the last 6 weeks or so, I've been telling people subscribe to Fantasy Football Picks and Bets on Apple Podcasts, a brand new show, both video and audio on Mayo Media Network. Even as you watch right now, a new show went up last night on Fantasy Football Picks and Bets. I welcome Scott Simpson to the team. He is going to be one of the new hosts of that show, along with me, along with Lauren Carpenter, along with Laquan Jones. We are building a solid crew for the show, so please go check out that show right now. It is for DraftKings Thursday night game in terms of showdown picks for that. Plus, Pete Overzet is on that episode as well, talking about his biggest takeaways from week 1 of the preseason. So there's a ton of awesome content up there. But I was doing this giveaway, this draw giveaway. If you could rate and review, we'll grow the prize pool. So we got enough reviews to get up to a $1,500 prize pool. So what I said I would do is give 15 people $100 cash. So I hope you have PayPal, because that's how I'm sending you the money. So if you hear your name, go open a PayPal so you can get your $100. Here are the 15 winners. We have Scott P. Young, Jester, 13K, BSR, The ATM, Happy Enchilada 2, Ortiz Austin, Andrew Futzer, Leaf Fan 10. I don't know how I feel about that one. I have to take you off the list, pal. Either way, you've won for right now. At LeafsFan10 on Twitter. At Saint Sunday. At Viva La Chubber. That's a good one. At mgarb19. At D_Sinky. At Air McNair 99. At Mystery_Main. At Jason Apps 3 and at B Bumgardner 3. You are the 15 winners of the $100 giveaways, $1,500 in total. And shockingly enough, I'm going to have some more cash giveaways to go on right now. And here are a few things that you need to do just so you have them in the bank for when I actually do the actual giveaway. Because you're going to need to be able to do all these things. 1, subscribe to Mayo Media Network on YouTube. That's an easy one. 2, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience Audio Podcast. Come on now, leave a rating while you're up there as well. 5 stars if you can manage it. That would be very generous of you. And if you hit the description right now in the video or podcast, then you're going to find a link to the free newsletter. You're going to want to be subscribed to that because you're going to have to if you want some more of the cash giveaways. We're probably going to be giving them out at the end of week 1. So we got like 3 weeks to build this all up. Those are 3 things that you can do right off the hop to do it. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm going to have giveaways up there too at the PME. I'll probably have some free DraftKings best ball tickets. What I'm working on right now, I'm trying to get a ton of them so I can just give them away to you guys because that would be awesome. Giving back to you for helping support the show. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and we'll get to Jake Ciely and the tight end rankings. Enjoy. It's finally time to get to the 2021 tight end rankings for half-point PPR. If you've missed the tiered rankings at all of the other positions, be it the top 150 overall, the running backs, the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, shame on you, but you can rectify that very easily by hitting the description. You can find the link to all of those right now. Remember to subscribe to Mayo Media Network too, and smash the like button to the video and tell me your tight end sleeper of the year. One of those last round tight ends that you think you can get away with in fantasy drafts in 2021. Jake Ciely from theathletic.com at AllInKid on Twitter is on the line. I don't want to go too crazy with tight ends. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's pretty straightforward of who the good ones are and who like the ones that we have no idea are.
I think that's pretty much the case most years, but the funny thing is you say that, and then that third tier, which I'm assuming that's what it's going to be today, that third tier is often the landmines of tight ends, like the past years of O.J. Howard and Evan Ingram, and then Tyler Higbee last year. Like, that's the one that everybody falls into the trap with.
It is, and we'll see what the recent ADPs are showing from a lot of these guys, but let's just go to tier one. It's one player. It's Travis Kelce, and I'm good with that. I'm doing a draft right now in your Flex League, a 12-teamer. It's best ball, so the strategy is a little bit different. We can talk through that in a second. But I took Kelce at number 6 overall, and that the one thing that I found about drafts where I do start Travis Kelce is that it almost instantly puts me into 0 RB mode.
And that's for all the conversations you and I had, that's why I don't generally do it now. Even as I've sat here for how many years you and I have been doing this show and have had the conversation where I don't take Kelce. I actually had 2 of my 3 dynasty startups this past season. And granted, it's a dynasty startup, so he's discounted because of his age. But I took Kelce in the second round of both because he fell to the second round because of the age. And I don't mind it. The difference there is I didn't have to take him in the first round because what you just said, you're giving something up at running back or wide receiver. If you go running back in the second round, you're not totally 0 RB. You could kind of go with that, what people like elite RB, bell cow, like the one running back, whatever it might be. But then if you do that, well, then you're likely not getting an elite wide receiver. So you kind of give something else up. And then if you do go wide receiver in the second round and half and full point PPR, to your point, is now you are kind of headed towards the, again, not full 0 running back, but you're going to be playing that game where you're kind of looking for that timeshare. Hopefully it breaks their way. The backup like a Javonte Williams that takes over by week 6 and those kind of guys.
The biggest issue for me was the 2 running backs that I wanted in round 2 both didn't make it to me in 2 of the 3 picks before me. I was like, oh, well, one of these guys is most definitely going to fall because Najee Harris is exactly who I wanted to take, and he obviously did not make it back to me. Then Joe Mixon was going to be the consolation prize. He didn't make it back to me. I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get Calvin Ridley, who I love this year, and I'll just go 0 RB that way. And, of course, he doesn't make it to me. They go 1, 2, 3 right in front of me. So I get, quote-unquote, stuck with DeAndre Hopkins with the 19th overall pick. And I was fine with that because the next picks are like DK, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson, and then we get to our next tight end in terms of Darren Waller at number 24. But after that, like, I wasn't going to start plunging on third round running backs. You know what I mean? Like, it was between, I was thinking about Chris Carson in the third. It was between him and McLaurin. And I didn't want to say, you know what, I'm going to take, although I have McLaurin ranked higher, I started thinking to myself, it's like, well, I don't have a running back. What am I going to do here? And it being best ball, I think the strategy is a little bit different in this circumstance as well. Because now I can take like 6 loser running backs and hopefully 2 of them have good weeks. I'd rather just take the higher scoring players overall. So I was going to take McLaurin either way. But Carson was obviously off the board 1 pick before. Matthew Berry took him 1 pick before me. So I ended up with Terry McLaurin, and then I ended up taking Mike Davis in the 4th round at pick number 43.
Which I like.
I needed someone with some, at least, I don't know how long he keeps this job for, but I needed some sort of volume at the running back position. And I think that he has not a ton of upside, but I think he has a pretty stable floor as long as he has that job. So that's just sort of one look of how a team may start if you take Kelce in the first round. And I take him at number 6 overall because I looked at the board and all of the 5 running backs that I wanted all actually went picks 1 through 5. I was hoping someone would jump on maybe Barkley or anyone, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, someone like that. I could be talked into one of those running backs. Like, I think if I put them like side by side, like Harris and Kelce would be my ideal start to drafts. But I think that means I need to have pick like 8 or pick 9 if I want to go that and pray someone doesn't jump on Kelce at the same time. But I was good with taking Kelce at 6. I like my team. Others may not like my team, but I actually like my team. But that's sort of the route that you have to go if you do take one of these tight ends early, and it being specifically Travis Kelce.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that because the one place where I did take him in a redraft in the first round, it wasn't 9, it was actually 11, and I took him at 11, knowing even the two running backs go bang bang at the turn. In that draft, I was able to go not Harris, it was actually Kelce Mixon. So I'm okay with that. As you mentioned in your draft, for everybody that doesn't know, the Mixon drop off, the next running back that went with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then Montgomery and Carson, and that you were mentioned before. And it was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight wide receivers. So it was kind of what was on the board for you. So when I went Kelce at 11, that's why I'll tell you, I almost went Kelce at 6, like you just did in a recent draft. But again, it was the format situation. That was a guillotine league, and that's actually why I was considering it. It was like, look, I'll never have to go try and chase somebody off the guillotine waivers. But at the same time, because it's 17 teams, I was like, well, if I don't take a running back here, I'm going to be spending a ton of my fab early, and that still might not even work out. So it depends on your format. And you brought this up, but you didn't say it on the show. But before we even jumped on, I asked if you were going to take Kittle in the third. If he fell to you, he was 2 picks in front of you. In a best ball, as you mentioned, at running back and at tight end, like some teams will do, is you can kind of cobble together 2 or 3 tight ends and know that most weeks you'll get double digits. You can cobble together 5, 6 running backs and know you'll get 2 good guys every single week. You kind of lose that upside that you like to do and hammer out that position and get Kittle and Kelce. You lose some of that upside when you do that in best ball.
I agree. That's more of a head-to-head philosophy that I like to employ, because the other teams can only start one tight end, and then you force them into by monopolizing the very top end of the tight end market. And you can play one at flex, you can play one at tight end, and like Kittle's, what would he be, like a receiver 13 or something like that, but his positional value goes up, especially when you already have Travis Kelce. That means 2 of the best 3 tight ends are just off the board for no one else to have, and then you really put people into a hole. In best ball, like you said, you can take 2 or 3 tight ends at the end of your draft and roll the dice that once a week one of those guys is okay, and it really mitigates the overall impact that taking those tight ends early was going to be. So I was really just waiting for best player to fall to me. I felt that McLaurin was the best player available for how highly I have him ranked. So you can check out the full rankings list in the description at each of the positions, by the way. You just click on the 150 and all the hot links are up in there. So it's Kelce number 1, we know that. Tier 2 is Waller and the aforementioned George Kittle for me. Do you have any concerns about Waller and like just the fact that he hasn't done much this preseason?
No, honestly, for the report, well, if we're to believe the reports. So if we're to believe the reports, it's not a major situation. So similar to Austin Eckler, who isn't playing at all this preseason, I just get to the season healthy. Like, I don't want to see you go down. Yesterday, well, when we're recording this, is yesterday being Tuesday, Chase Claypool went down on the second to the last play, and thankfully they're saying it's minor. It's not even a significant sprain, all that type. But that's the last thing we want to see is Darren Waller. The question with the Raiders is, how's the split going to be in the backfield? And is John Brown going to be the number 1? Is Henry Ruggs going to step forward? Is Brian Edwards going to have a better year too? Like, those are the questions. The question isn't Waller. So just get to the season healthy, similar to George Kittle. Like, I don't want to see George Kittle re-aggravate, like get another injury. Just get him to the season healthy. So I don't, again, as long as the reports are true. This is kind of similar to who else? DeAndre Swift dealing with his groin right now. It's like, oh, he should be fine for week 1. Well, yeah, like, I'd still like to know for certain, but if we believe it, then no, I'm not concerned.
In high-end NFC high-stakes drafts over the past 4 days, Darren Waller is now going pick number 22 overall, George Kittle number 29 in the draft that I am still currently doing. It's a slow draft. They went 24 and 28 respectively. So that is the tier of guy that people are going for, and it's going to cost you an early to late 3rd round pick in order to acquire them. Do you feel more comfortable with Kittle in the 3rd or Kelce in the 1st?
Kittle. For more comfortable?
Yeah, like
I don't want to do Kelce.
You don't
Look,
want.
I don't want to do Kelce in the 1st, but if I got him where I got him in that other draft at 11th, I don't hate that cost because I'm getting that quick turnaround pick and do what I did and get still a top 12 running back. So I would rather take Kelce there. But if I had to take Kelce where you took him, then Kittle in the 3rd. That's where it really comes down to. I know that half round doesn't sound like a lot, but it does make the difference for how I'm building my team. So if it's Kelce in the middle of the 1st, give me Kittle in the 3rd. If it's Kelce at the end of the 1st, give me Kittle. Or Kelce. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually think it's still Kelce, that Kelce is sort of on a tier of his own, and these next two guys are closer to the tier 3 type tight end. Although the reason
Sure.
that I have Kittle and Waller separated as a part of the tier 2 is I think their floors are so much better. There's still a lot of unpredictability with the next three guys in tier 3, and that's going to be Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and TJ Hawkinson. Do you think that those three deserve to be in tier 3? Is there anyone that should be on it? Is there anyone who should be out of it?
No, that's actually my exact same tier. The only difference between you and me is I put the three in tier 1, only because we've seen Kelce and Kittle finish back-to-back by a tenth of a point. So if you want to separate Kelce because who Kelce is, I have no problem with that. I'm not saying you're wrong to do. It's just when I said at the beginning of the show, and that's why I'm saying this, at the beginning of the show when I was saying tier 3, it wasn't these three. It was the next group we're going to get to. So for that point, I have Pitts, Hawkinson, and Andrews in order in tier 2. I actually had Mark Andrews in a tier of his own before Bateman got hurt, because my biggest concern of the Bateman was that he was going to affect Mark Andrews. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, is that Bateman wasn't just only going to affect Marquise Brown and the rest, but that he was going to take away Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is already somewhat inconsistent. Has a lot of 20-point weeks, but he has a lot of single-digit games as well. So that's where I had Andrews on a tier of his own, but now that Bateman's at least missing the first couple of weeks, potentially, I put him back with Pitts and Hawkinson.
I was going to say missing at least the first few weeks. I think that injury looks like it might be not necessarily more serious, but it might take a bit longer to heal. And then for him to get back on the field and be an actual contributor that takes away targets from other people. It's funny, the runthesims.com projections right now, the baseline projections, and you can go to runthesims.com and use the projections for free. You can mess around with them, do whatever you want. But if you want the optimizer game simulations or betting tools, that is going to cost you something. So runthesims.com/Mayo will get you $50 off the overall package and $25 off the simulator DFS package, that kind of thing. And it's all tools like that are completely customizable. No one's giving you picks on the site. You input what you want to input, change the baselines to whatever you want, then run the numbers. Makes everything super easy. But if it's just projections, season-long projections that you're concerned about, just go create a free account at runthesims.com right now, and you can go mess around it, save your results. It's awesome. You can make your own rankings that way. So the baseline projections love Mark Andrews more than these other two by a pretty healthy margin. So I'm inclined to trust that just a little bit based on how this team is likely going to operate, although they have 0 healthy receivers at this point, and all of the offense or all the defense can actually hone in on Mark Andrews. But I actually have him closer to Kittle and Waller in terms of projections than I do Pitts and Hawkinson, and then the next tier of all of these guys that are an absolute crapshoot. It seems like the projections have him in tier 2. That's why I have him at the top of tier 3, because the eye test, me thinking through the logic of the situation, especially with Pitts and with Hawkinson, I think that they are under projected. Maybe Andrews is a little over projected, but I do think that Andrews probably has, I don't want to say the most upside in case Pitts is like a generational type talent. I'm just hesitant because it's a tight end, it's year 1, and we just don't see it all that often.
Yeah, we don't. And, you have to go back to all the way Mike Ditka to have an amazing season. But Jeremy Shockey had a really good season. And everybody brings up Evan Ingram. And Evan Ingram had a situation where he had no wide receivers healthy left. It was essentially the number 1. So to tie all that together, the comparison I keep making, and I do for you, like to go comparison-wise, my projections, I have Pitts 162, Hawkinson 155, Mark Andrews 152. And that's why they're in a tier together for me. The reason I have Pitts the highest is the comparison I keep making is pretend, and I know this is not the same, but let me get through the entire thing for everybody listening, is pretend they drafted Jamar Chase. And that's where I say is like, he is that type of matchup problem. And if Chase was on this team, it's the Justin Jefferson of last year. Justin Jefferson stepped into a situation where he was the number 2 receiver. There was questions whether or not he was going to succeed outside. That obviously wasn't an issue. But I say that to say, if a wide receiver had been drafted, Devontae Smith went to the Falcons, we'd be talking about Devontae Smith as a top 20 wide receiver, similar to what Chase is right now in a lot of drafts for the Bengals. Is he stepping into a volume situation where he is the number 2 receiver and not a wideout, but he's the number 2 receiver for the Falcons? He's stepping into Julio's role. Russell Gage plays better out of the slot. He's probably going to be forced to play more outside now with Zacchaeus in the slot more. But for all intents and purposes, if Pitts isn't a bust, and that's where the risk comes in, you're not wrong in saying that. If Pitts is a bust, as first year, and he struggles to acclimate as a tight end, and they do ask him to block some, and they don't trust him when they do need him to block. So now he's not on the field 85% of the time. Like, there are scenarios that you could say this is how he doesn't finish as a top 5 tight end. But for all intents and purposes, he's their number 2 wide receiver, and that's why I have him where I do. So if you don't want to take him there, I have no problem with it. But the upside is legitimate where, 900 receiving yards and 6-7 touchdowns, I think is well within his range of outcomes.
So the projections that I've run and I've customized for myself on runthesims.com, and like I said, you can go put in your own numbers and see what it spits out for you. I have in half-point PPR, Mark Andrews at 200.1 points, Kyle Pitts at 162 points, and then Hawkinson's at like 130 points. So there's like a gap, and then everyone else.
So you're just that's the biggest difference is our Pitts projections are very close. The biggest difference is you have Andrews a lot higher. What do you have Andrews? Is it so I have him for 800 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. What is it? Is the yards or the touchdowns that you're higher on?
It's both. I have him at 1025 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's definitely, I have a sprinkling across of everybody else of 650 yards, 650 to Marquise, still 430 to Bateman, 530 to Watkins, Duvernay getting 200, which isn't a hell of a lot. Tylen Wallace getting 200. So, if you sprinkle some of those out and then, throw them onto Andrews, for the comparison, I have Andrews at a 18.4 target share. You probably have him higher than that.
I can go tell you what I have right now. I have him at where are you at, Mark Andrews?
I'm going to guess 22.
That is dead on, 22%.
It's like we do this for a living.
Yeah. And you probably ran those simulations with those numbers at the same time. And
I actually did it. I was. You could see the cherry Coke Zero I was holding and getting ready to take a sip of.
No. What I mean, you've probably run that before. At least you know what a 4% percentage point upgrade on a player like that would actually lead to, because that is the projection that I have out right now. The rest of the market share for the Ravens, I got Hollywood at 16%. I still punched in Bateman at 15%. Watkins, who's all 3 of these guys are hurt, so who the fuck knows? And then I have Sammy Watkins at 11%, Duvernay and Boykin at 5%.
Wait, is 9% of Watkins week 1 and then 2% the rest of the year?
Yeah, basically. But what if he misses week 1 this year, though? What happens to him?
Does it roll over? Is it like those old cell phone plans? It rolls over to the next week?
Oh, that would be fantastic news. So that's a tier 3. I guess the question about Pitts I had for you is thinking back to just our lifetime, and let's say the past 15 years or so. When we talk, and the way that Pitts gets talked about, I can only remember one other tight end being talked about this way coming out of college, and maybe 2, because I think people forget the buzz on Hawkinson and what a complete player he was coming out. And he ended up going inside the top 10 to the Lions, so obviously they thought the same thing. But there was just a lot of building momentum for Hawkinson by the time the draft came around. But the only one I can ever really remember getting the same sort of comps to Pitts, like athletically, he's going to make such an impact, is Vernon Davis.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how far back you have to go. The biggest thing about Hawkinson at the time, and I wasn't the only one to say it, is you mentioned how complete of a tight end he is was part of the problem, is the fact that he is such a good blocker. And that's the good and the bad here, is that Kyle Pitts is a decent enough blocker to stay on the field, but he's not so good. Similar to O.J. Howard with the Cameron Brate breakout that for everybody wanted the breakout to be for O.J. Howard. They kept asking him to block. I think Vernon Davis is a good comparison of just how dominant he could be in the past game. What was Vernon Davis's rookie season? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, I hate to tell you, Jake, I do not. Vernon Davis, rookie season.
Oh, he barely played in his rookie season. Even the second season wasn't that good. His best season wasn't until, it also was his best season overall, but his breakout season wasn't until year 4 at 25 when he had 965 yards and 13 touchdowns.
So I know that obviously, look, comparing 2021 NFL offenses to 2006 NFL offenses is completely different, especially with the way that the Niners still played at the time. It was still turn around and hand the ball off to Frank Gore.
It was Trent Dilfer at the time, don't forget. So
was it Trent Dilfer or Garcia?
It might have been Garcia for one of those years. The second or third year of Vernon Davis was Trent Dilfer and Alex Smith.
Ooh, fun.
So
good teams.
That was back. I can click on the year real quick. Here we go. Yeah. So, oh my God, this one year too. So 2007, was Trent Dilfer, Alex Smith. They went 1-5 and 2-5. Sean Hill got 2 starts and went 2-0. The leading receiver Arnaz Battle, 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Vernon Davis was second, and Darrell Jackson was. That's how bad this team was.
Let's not besmirch Arnaz Battle at all. Someone in our fantasy league in like 2005 or 2006, 2007 range owned Arnaz Battle. He also had a website called battlezone.com, which, had he have kept on to the URL, feels like it would actually be probably worth more than he ever got paid in his NFL career. But that was a hot fire site. Arnaz Battles, battlezone.com. It was awesome.
He had 600 and change the year before with the other Antonio Bryant. And then, year 3 of Vernon Davis. Isaac Bruce finally shows up at 36 years old and leads the team with 835 yards. God, these teams are bad.
I forgot about the fake Antonio Bryant. Is there anyone?
That's why I said the other Antonio Bryant.
Yeah, but remember like fake Ricky Williams, fake Steven Jackson, fake Adrian Peterson. Do we have any like fake players anymore? Because at least Steve Smith, the other Steve Smith, Squiggy, he was good for like a year and a half on the Giants. So he was like an actual player.
Also threw the middle initial. Yeah, you threw the middle initial in there too. That was the difference between them. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we have anybody to I don't think the closest we have, but it is Josh Allen on defense. But that's the other Josh. That's a completely. We're not talking for fantasy. We don't even know unless you play IDP. You don't know who the other Josh Allen is.
Which sucks because that used to be the move in auction drafts if you could ever pull it off. Nominate the fake version of the player for $1 and just see if anyone will go crazy. I did that with Kansas City Steven Jackson one year. It's like Steven Jackson, $3. It's like $49 for Kansas City Steven Jackson. And then the guy like started crying in the room. I was like, well, maybe you should pay attention sometimes. Sucks to be you. Listen, some people will be like, oh, okay, like joke's on you. We'll run it back and give you your money back. Not in Pat Mayo's leagues. Not a chance. Pay fucking attention, pal. Get your head out of your ass.
No. We do have like 17 Williams, but they all have different first names. So that's trying to think if there's anybody else. There's really not anybody anymore, unfortunately.
See, this is what we talk about on the tight ends ranking shows. But I guess this is the most important part right now.
That's the other part.
It's tier 4 and down. Like, if you're not going to take one of those 6 guys, in my mind, you wait till the final 4 rounds to take a tight end, right?
Yes. That's, 100%. I don't even have a problem. I was helping somebody do their draft last night and saying that it's the very same thing. Instead of jumping into tier 3 and overdrafting Fant or Robert Tonyan or something like that, is just wait. And what I said is, like, if you wait and get Jono or Irv, just double up late if you want, double up one of those guys with a Gerald Everett or Cole Kmet or something like that. And then, look at and it's usually because look at the wide receivers and the running backs on the board at that point anyway. They're often the guys that you're cutting in week 1 and super flyers. They're not even like the flyers that you want for the upside, which that's what your bench should be. So if you want to double down at tight end that late, I don't have a problem with it. I still probably just roll one, like even Irv Smith, I'd just roll one and just wait to see, maybe Austin Hooper finally becomes a thing again. But if you wanted to go with 2 just to kind of play that route, either way, I'm with you and I'm waiting.
So are you worried that Zach Ertz being alive still and running more routes is going to hurt Dallas Goedert here?
Yeah, it didn't knock him out of this tier for me,
but bumps him down for sure, right? That's what
it did. So
I initially had him the highest of this tier, and now I've dropped him down towards like the bottom. Now this tier only has like 6 names on it for me, and I think that like here's the tier. It's Higbee, Fant, Thomas, Goddard, Sticky, Gesicki. I had both of the Patriots guys in here, but they're like both hurt now. I don't know what the severity of it is, so I had to bump them down to the bottom of it. I was thinking about elevating Cole Kmet, who actually seems like he's going to be a part of this Bears offense.
Yeah, so you didn't say 2 names that I have in here. You don't have Tonyan in this group?
Tonyan and Ingram, I just had question marks next to. That was there too.
No, I don't have Ingram. I also have Irv Smith in this group, mostly because Conklin got hurt. Like, you know me. I've been the one that's like, don't ignore Conklin and don't ignore. I actually wrote a few weeks ago, it was ADPs that were too high. I don't remember what I called the article or whatever it might be, but Irv Smith was in there. And it's like, I like Irv Smith. I've liked Irv Smith since he's been drafted. He's Evan Ingram. He's a matchup problem in the passing game and not the best of the blockers, but that's what we want. But I said, you cannot ignore how much the Vikings run 12. They want 2 tight ends out there, and they kept using Conklin in the red zone and the end zone. But with Conklin being banged up, that may be, ooh, okay. Similar to Jonnu, is that because Hunter Henry has been so banged up and he could potentially miss time, the Jonnu Smith is a low ankle sprain. It sounds like he should be ready for week 1. I understand that if he's not, you got to bump him down too, but I'm okay with Jonnu according to the reports right now. But to get back to what you were saying, yeah, I initially had Goddard third. I had Fant, Higbee, Goddard. I had him in front of Thomas and Tanyan and the rest. I moved him down, still in this tier, but I moved him down to 11 now, behind Thomas and Tanyan, right there with Jonnu and Irv, because they are now question marks. I was already somewhat concerned about the people for Goddard. I said this on the podcast yesterday, Pat, and I actually tweeted out the video to give kind of the 1-minute summary of it, is we do this in fantasy every year with players every single year. And what it is and what we get caught into this trap of is seeing the ceiling. We see the potential. We know the potential. And we sit there and like, the reason I thought about this is because Rich Rebar is the one who tweeted and said, like, if we ran the team, you could go back to Lamar Miller, where everybody was pounding the table to give Lamar Miller more touches for the Dolphins. We see these ceilings and it's like, oh my God, think of what could happen if the team unleashed him. Zach Ertz is still there. Goddard's not going to be unleashed until Zach Ertz is gone. If Zach Ertz gets traded, fine. Put Goddard back inside the top 10. But until that happens, we can't rank somebody because of what we want to happen.
It's fair. So let's build this tier. Would you go Higbee or Fant?
I'm back to back. But the funny thing is, because of cost, I've been going Higbee because he's still not going anywhere near Fant.
So here's how it's going after the top 6. The top 6 are being drafted as the top 6. It's then Goddard over the past 4 days, and again, this is in high stakes drafts, and that is over the course of. Do I have this right? No, that I have that set to February for this one. Let me go rectify that. I was like, that's still really high for him at this point.
Yeah.
Let's go to submit. All right, so over the course of 32 drafts, it's Mark Andrews, then Fant 30 picks later. So Fant, Goddard, Logan Thomas are all going in the 90s. They're being drafted as a mini tier by themselves. Then it's Higbee, Tunyon, Gesicki, Irv Smith, Jonnu Smith as the tier of 5. And then it's Evan Ingram, Troutman, Gronk, Hunter Henry, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. They're just basically going either undrafted or in the very last round kind of thing. So I actually weirdly think that with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's going to helm the Washington Footballs again this year, I think that Logan Thomas is going to be good. And it's funny because we always talk about the young quarterback likes to rely on his tight end, which it's probably a myth. It's just a thing that people say. There's no real evidence to back this up. However, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know if you know this, he went to Harvard. I think I'm breaking this news to everyone out there. I don't think that they knew that. But he is, despite his play, I think that he likes smart players around him. And Logan Thomas being a former quarterback, I think that's going to be a really nice fit with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Knowing that they're on the same page. The other thing that's opening up this opportunity here is Curtis Samuel's not been on the field to be able to build rapport. Now, I'm not downplaying Curtis Samuel or saying Curtis Samuel is not going to be great to see him as the number 2 with the Washington team. But as you said, the footballs, you only got one more year to say the footballs, Pat, unless you can convince them to name them that.
What are they changing their name to?
They haven't. No, they still haven't said. That's next offseason. But this is the last year they're using football team. So there you go.
Just go with the footballs.
Let's say, hey, look, there was one that on their list of things were the football team. That could still be a possibility. There was logos thrown out there and everything. But yeah, I'm with you on Logan Thomas and the fact that, it's funny how these situations ebb and flow. Is that Logan Thomas was, oh my God, what a find last year. This offseason is like, all right, now we're overrating him because these are the deficiencies for Logan Thomas. And then it goes back up and it goes back down and it goes back. Hey, Logan Thomas, I'm with you, deserves to be fringe top 10. That's a proper valuation. He's never really going to hit that tier with Mark Andrews. Although I think he could have, even with Fitzpatrick's, you look at Fitzpatrick's history and doesn't throw to the running backs much, doesn't throw to his tight ends as much as his receivers, but that's because he's had some much better receivers than tight ends for many years. So if Logan Thomas is at least his number 3, should still be a tight end 1. It shouldn't even be hard for him to do that.
Would you go Gesicki or would you go Logan Thomas?
Oh, Logan Thomas. I don't even have Gesicki in this tier.
Okay. Would you go Tunyon or Logan Thomas?
Thomas.
Okay. Goddard or Logan Thomas?
Thomas.
All right, so it's Higbee, Fant, Thomas. Those are like the next 3 on the list, essentially.
Yeah. I go Fant, Higbee, Thomas, but I'm with you. Yeah.
All right, so I actually like Gesicki, and just more injuries to the offensive line in Miami. I think Tua's going to be throwing a ton, and I think that's just a very easy completion for him.
No, so here's why. Well, that's why, but that's now Jalen Waddle. So here's why. This is why I'm off Gesicki. And maybe they use him differently and I'm wrong, but this is where I went down the path of Gesicki. So Gesicki last year is the highest rate of tight ends running out of the slot. He was also, for those last 5 or 6 weeks, top 5 in opportunity share. We talk about it on your show all the time, the market share, the target share, the opportunities, everything like that. Gesicki was all that and still was just barely inside the top 10 last year. And even if we want to say, okay, well, that's fine, he's still top 10. The problem is Jalen Waddle is going to be the slot option. He is going to force Gesicki back in line, which is where Gesicki struggled. Now, can Gesicki overcome that and maybe he develops more? Sure, 100% that could happen. But if you're going to tell me Fuller, Parker, and Waddle are healthy, which is also a big question, but if all three are healthy, this is a 3-wide team now with Waddle in the slot, Gesicki in line, and I think that really hurts Gesicki.
Okay, so I'm just going to put Higbee, Fant, Thomas, and Tunyon all in tier 4, and then we'll build a tier 5. I got Gesicki, Dallas Goedert, Cole Kmet, Irv Smith, and then the 2 Patriots guys and Evan Ingram.
That's fine with me. Or we differ a little bit, but I'm okay with that.
Would you have Henry or Jonnu up higher? Because it looks like Henry's shoulder is going to be okay. And like you said, it seems like Jonnu's ankle is going to be fine. Although, didn't he have an ankle injury last year too? Maybe he has soft ankles.
He gets banged up a lot. I would go Jonnu mostly because also better in the passing game, not by much, but Henry's a little bit better in the blocking game. Again, not by much. Jonnu's actually a decent blocker for tight ends. It's just those little intricacies nudges Smith higher by about 5 or 6 spots at tight end for me, because I just feel like he's going to be, if healthy, for both of them is a big question. I feel like he's going to be running more routes. I go back to the O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate situation. As O.J. Howard's such a good blocker, we got so annoyed in fantasy watching Cameron Brate steal everything from him. I think that's what we're going to see here. I think Hunter Henry is going to be involved blocking more than Jonnu is.
And if these guys aren't your last round pick before like a kicker in defense, don't bother reaching on any of these guys. Just wait for whoever's left and just take one of them and hopefully it works out. I have no
problem taking Ingram that late. Like I understand he dealt with drops last year, but for everybody that's out there, the perception of what Ingram did last year is way lower than what he really did. He was one of 3, maybe 4 tight ends that had over 100 targets, and he had the yards. He just didn't have touchdowns, and that's partly because of Daniel Jones and the quarterback play. Granted, you could say, well, more weapons, more opportunities, less of a target. He still had over 100 targets last year. He catches a few more. Eric Ebron, we used to crap on him every single year for his hands. These things can change year to year, even without improvement from their player themselves. So you have Ingram get close to last year and get to 4 or 5 touchdowns, and he's going to be pushing the tight end 1 tier again.
So everyone else is going to be on tier 6. That includes are you a Troutman guy? Because I'm not.
I was, and from a pure matchup problem, I am for everybody wants to poo-poo him and be like, oh, he ran a 4.8. The dude is 6'4", 6'5", 250. If I could run a 4.8, I can't run a 4.8 at my size. I wish I could run a 4.8 at his size. Get the hell out of here. He is a matchup problem in the receiving game. The problem for Troutman is he's also being used as a blocker, and we saw in week 1. Now, we still have week 2 and 3 of the preseason to go, but this comes back to it. If you want tight ends, well, in fantasy, Pat, we want volume. Well, at tight end, if you're not running routes, you're inherently ruining your volume. So if he's going to be asked to block 50% of the time, you have to be off him, no matter the fact that it looks like the opportunity would be there to potentially be the second or third receiver. He won't be if he's blocking that much.
So the other guys, let's see, Gronk, Everett, Ferkser, Ertz, Jarwin, Ebron, Cook. Do you have any rumors to this Donald Parham, Feinberg's buddy, actually being good, or is that just like the internet wants it? It's the new Jake Cumero.
It's probably that. Don't forget they brought in the dreaded Jared Cook that we hate.
Oh yeah,
he's now there too.
Oh yeah, I'm not drafting him.
So he's completely that's a timeshare tight end situation from somebody who's also inherently a timeshare himself during the season, the Jared Cook. So no, I don't want anything there, mostly because how much are they going to use the tight end anyway? You have Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and they love Joshua Palmer, who could get right past Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton already. They might be running a decent amount of 3 wide too. So no, I'm not in on Parham.
All right. Those are the tight end rankings. I don't want to belabor the point on this. You can find the top 150 and all of the other position ranking tiers down in the description.
Wait. You don't want to belabor it. Hold on. I got one for you. You didn't mention Secret of the Uzma.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know that he's ahead of Drew Sample in the depth chart in Cincinnati?
I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I still think that's one of your best nicknames you ever had.
I feel like we're getting so old that people just don't get that anymore.
The Secret of the Uzma?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're bringing back Seth Rogen's high and writing a script for their new one, so they might.
All right. Smoke some weed. Enjoy some Foot Clan. There we go. We'll be well on our way with some TMNT. Although every time I see the U.S. men's national soccer team written out, I always think it's Ninja Turtles. I feel like that's
Thank you.
Yeah, like every time I'm like,
it's not just you.
Just like, why the fuck are people talking about Ninja Turtles? This is weird.
I should have wore that shirt today.
There we are. Jake Ciely. Follow him on Twitter at AllInKid. Check him out at theathletic.com. And hey, he has a brand new show 3 times a week over on the Bets TV YouTube channel, which you can watch live. What are the days of the week?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mondays with Meanie. It's the recap show. Well, once the season starts. Tuesdays are with Steph Smalls. That's going to be the waiver show. And then Wednesdays with Jeff Ratcliffe for the ranking show. So a day behind your schedule, so you don't have to worry about repeating the same day.
Well, that's good because I think that Meanie's going to be on my recap show too.
Oh, well, the Meanie's going to get very exhausted about talking about the same things.
Well, he'll put it this way. He'll be warmed up for you on Mondays, but I still haven't worked out the finalization of my schedule yet. So, hey.
Well, wait, he might be warmed up for you. What time is your show?
Sunday night at like.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Mondays.
No, I was going to record it during the Sunday night football game. That was my angle this year.
Okay, nice. Smart.
Then it's just out. Then it's out into the ether. It's out into the world. People can enjoy. Because I like listening to podcasts. Because I'm like all wired from football all day, even though I wake up at like 5 a.m. That after the final game, like I'd like to listen to some reaction from the day, and maybe I can provide that.
All right. Well, if you're too busy with Sunday Night Football, don't be. Listen to Pat, and then you can listen to it in the morning when you first wake up, and then at 10 a.m. then tune in to Meanie doing the same thing all over again with me.
There you go. Jake Ciely at AllInKid. Remember to smash the like button for the video. Give me your favorite of these low and tight ends. Check everything out in the description. And if you like free money, I know I just gave away the winners, but hey, there's always new stuff in the Mayo Media newsletter, exclusive content, exclusive stats, discounts on a bunch of stuff. So hit the description and go subscribe to that right now. It's completely free. So think about how many fucking email lists you're on already. You might as well join another one. At least this one has real content in it and it's not spam. So please help us out there, and runthesims.com/Mayo will get you a discount on all of the tools that you need to succeed this season. Sub to the network as well. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! It's the Pat Mayo Experience!